Hello, listeners. Welcome to the Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon podcast. As you know already, we like to talk to business leaders in Asia, and my passion is to share stories from all the business leaders in Asia. Like when I was talking to our guest today, I mentioned, when you look for podcasts, a lot of podcasts that you can find are in the West, and we need to share more of the stories, especially of business leaders in Asia. And today I have someone special. He is very near to my roots, right? Very near to where I used to grow up. He's the first guest that I have that is from the same hometown as me, right? So later I'll bring him on and tell me more. So today we have Faizal Sohaimi, and I've connected with him on LinkedIn for some time, right? So I listened to a few of his interviews, and he talks a lot about B2B sales and business development. So he's the managing consultant at CnexionAtWork, and also his vast experience in sales and business development. He's also currently a sales and business development trainer here in Kuala Lumpur. So Faizal, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you for taking the time, Faizal. So I always like to start off with the first question. So this is called the Crouching Tiger and Dragon podcast. So the first question would be, what is your favorite Kung Fu movie?
To be honest, I'm torn between that movie, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and also Kung Fu Panda. Because Crouching Tiger, there are so many female actors to like. So which one do I like? But the Kung Fu Panda, I really love the, what you call it, Mogwai, I don't know, the turtle, the tortoise, the master. I really love the master.
Master, let me recall. Master Uguay. Right? Master Uguay. Yes, Master Uguay. Yes.
I love his look.
Yeah. Master Uguay. Yes, yes. So Uguay in Cantonese means turtle. Master Uguay, and yeah, of course, the panda is amazing. Jack Black. So I love that movie. It brings the Asian Chinese culture to the West, and yeah, of course, there is a Kung Fu movie. There is an unorthodox Kung Fu movie, but nevertheless a Kung Fu movie as well. And yeah, I love the underdog story of the panda growing up. So yeah, okay. So this is a question I don't ask all my guests. So me and you, Faizal, we are from Taiping. All right. So for my listeners, this is the first time maybe they are learning that I am from this town. So it is when I don't like to talk about Taiping to people who are not from Taiping, because they will think I am sombong. They will think you're showing off. I'm like, no, you're Taiping. Every day you can see the cloud, you can see the lake, and people don't believe me until they go there, right? So my first question to you, because not coming from me, coming to you, what is so good about your hometown Taiping?
Well, one thing is that I always talk about food lah. There are so many choices of char kway teow, the great ones. Because if you talk about Penang lah, people always talk about the char kway teow in Burma Road. But if in Taiping, there's so many places where we talk about great char kway teow, from Dolly in front of the clinic Kesihatan, all the way to Simpang. So Simpang, I didn't even know there was a good char kway teow in Simpang. So somebody just pointed on Facebook recently. I said, okay, I need to find that one. And Kemunting also, there's one or two great char kway teow. So I haven't managed to finish all the great char kway teows in Taiping. Right, so that's food-wise lah. But what I love really about Taiping, there are so many streams, the sungai, we can go soak ourselves. I mean, near your home, the Austin pool, Burmese pool, whatever pool. Worst come to worst, you just soak yourself in front of the zoo lah. Because I used to do that. Because I used to live in front of there, don't want to go far, just soak in front of the zoo, finish. So I love that.
Yeah. So for the listeners, Taiping is a very natural place, and now it's full of tourists. Recently, it's very full of tourists, and it is, I would say, underrated town. And people who ask me if they should come, I say they don't. If your expectation is very high, don't come. Go to Penang, go to Ipoh, right? Just go. But Taiping is a very subtle, very peaceful place. If you think Ipoh is peaceful, you should go Taiping. It is much more.
I will tell people don't come for my very own selfish reason. Don't come and congest the town, because Taiping can get really congested, especially long weekends, right? Lake Gardens. So I will tell people don't come. Don't come. Let me have my peace.
Yes. Don't come. And it's very local. Like you said, the food. Like one of my favorite things to eat if I go back, I'm not sure if you know this, is there is a nasi lemak at Tupai Road, and I love that nasi lemak.
The muibah.
Yes. I love the sotong and all that inside there.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
But you have to be there by 8:30 or it's gone.
Yes, that is one of my, a lot of good food in Taipei and a lot of beautiful scenery, very good zoo and museum, and a lot of things to do in Taipei. All right, so today let's talk about B2B sales, and for the context of this podcast, so I actually interview Faizal because actually I saw also a few of the interviews that he's done. So you can actually go to the step-by-step podcast recently that he's done with Azlin. And also a few years ago, he did an interview with one of our previous guests on the show as well, Rizal. And so Faizal is a B2B sales expert. So, and also I see on Zoom here, you call yourself the connector. Okay, so let me get into that first. Like, what is a connector?
Okay, when I see selling, I don't see myself as selling. I look at how do I connect the person or the customer, the client, to a solution. So I see it as connecting. And I also connect people to people. In fact, just before I came back, about half an hour ago, I was connecting two university people. One is Dr. Adam Sadiza, who is putting together a master's program for entrepreneurs. And another lady is Puan Fazila Hanis. She is looking at coming up with a program for entrepreneurs. So what I do is, I know one, I know two. So I said, why not you guys get together and let's see what we can do to come up with a program so that entrepreneurs benefit. So I tend to look into that kind of things when I look at myself as the connector. And then also when I see my clients, often if I go to see item A, to sell item A to them, I found out they also need item B, item C, item D, item E, or not. And most often, the company that I'm representing does not have item B, C, D, E, right? But I know, or I would know people within my network who has item B, C, D, E. And if I want to just keep it to me, and don't want to introduce people, fine. But I know the client will be deprived of a solution. So what I do is I will connect them to the clients. If they feel like there are areas that they can work together with me to solve the client's problem, hey, let's work together. Otherwise, I introduce you to person A, you take it from there, right? So one thing I know in the past, when you introduce or you connect person A to person B, people always ask, hey, what's my commission lah? Give me commission a bit lah. Huh? So that's normal in the business world. But I believe in that. If you feel like you want to give me something, great. But I wouldn't ask for it, and I normally do not need it because I think it's not fair. I just introduce the person and they do the hard work, everything. So if you want to give something to me, let's find a way to work together and we deliver the solution to the client. And then both of us make some profit from that. I think that's fair. So I don't believe in just introducing, I get something I don't like. I don't feel good at it. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. I just don't feel good about it. So I would like to connect people to people and people to solutions, people to business, people to knowledge and all that. So that's why I call myself the connector. I model it after a character that I got from a book called The Go-Giver by Bob Burg and John David Mann. So in that book, there's a character that is called Gus. He is the connector. So I learned from that book, he connects a hot dog seller to a financier, and they together invest into that business, and both of them profit. And he also connects one real estate lady to someone, and they manage to a transaction and they benefit. So I'm looking into that kind of connection in this world. So everybody benefits.
Awesome. We need more people like you because if there are more people like you, then a lot of people, like you said, would benefit. And I wish there were more people who don't see the opportunity, or they don't see actually. So like the one of the reasons why I started this podcast also is because it's a good opportunity to meet new people. So like me and you, if we without this opportunity to create content, I could meet you for coffee potentially, but it would be a bit strange. But it gives me a more opportunity to connect and to have conversations with people as well. So that is great. And before I ask you a bit more sales questions, can you briefly tell us your sales experience as well? While listening to your interview with Asdin, I heard you were in oil and gas and you had done millions of dollars of deals. So share with us a brief of your sales experience.
Okay. I started off as an engineer, initially as a power plant engineer, stuck in the plant looking at the numbers and the green and red lights. Then I left that job to go into oil field services. And that was a seriously hectic work. I was offshore 29 days in a month out of 30. Come back for 1 day, go offshore again. And then when I was on land also, mostly spent in front of a well. But the 99 economic downturn kicked me out of the oil field. I mean, the service, the technical part of it. So to survive, I look at various opportunities. I wanted to be a project engineer, tak laku. Nobody wanted to hire me as a project engineer. But surprisingly, I had no sales experience. I mean, real job title with sales experience, I didn't have it. But when I went to an interview, this one company, they had, if I'm not mistaken, 52 candidates, and I got the job. A fresh novice in sales got the job. Initially, quite simply because they needed a Bumiputra candidate lah. But the things that I was told that the Bumiputra candidate before that didn't bring any sale, so they had to let go a few people. I also was initially stumbling a lot. My first sale only happened in 6 months after I joined that company. Initially, the sale was very small. Against a target of 600,000 for the year, I only had 16,000 with a minuscule profit margin. But later on, a few months after that, almost like out of the blue, but that out of the blue happened because I met with so many people and I spent time with them quite often, helping them to look at potential solutions. I was still a young sales engineer at the time. And they found something that I can probably help them with. So that became a 550,000 ringgit order in the month 9. So against my 600,000 ringgit deal target, I got 566,000 ringgit, just my second order, right? From there, I was recognized by another company, a former boss of mine. I left my first job, my first sales job, then I went to another company. I built myself from there, from pipeline inspection sales to specialized inspection job. We had also at the time some technology equipment that the company bought. 8 months, no sales, right? But what we did was with my team, we sort of relook in how we market and sales this thing. We turn out that business to, I had 7 engineers in that particular group. We turned around that business until for 1.5 years, nobody could come back because they are all at site. Client wanted them every day. Right? So we turned around that business. From there, I felt the itch to start my own business. Somebody was willing to finance me, so we started that. And I secured the first contract in Malaysia by the oil company, National Oil Company, to supply the fire-resistant coverall. It was the first national contract. So that was worth about 30 million ringgit. Company was fresh. We had no license, Petronas license. We had no MOF license. We had no money. We had just face and mouth. So we learned how to partner with people, look for financing. and also learn how to be cheated lah. So even though we got the contract was only for 30 million official contract, but the value of the contract was actually double because we were also given the opportunity to supply to the oil companies contractors. So all the contractors had to come to us and buy. But I was a fresh guy in business, didn't know how to manage finance and all that. I went kaput. Yeah, I went to work again lah. So I went to work again and in various companies. What I specialized, I happened to specialize at the time without realizing it. Took a company that is almost dead, clean up the stuff. You know, when people say like shit hit the fan, right? So I was very good at cleaning the shit on the fan until the whole room get nice smelling again. So I rebuilt business that was doing flagellating at about 400,000 every 2 years or whatnot. So my team, we rebuilt the company to 8 million a year. So if you put a percentage, that's what, to 200%, 2,000% in a year. And I went on to do a few business like that. So we look at what you have and how do you repackage it, how to go and ask forgiveness from the clients, ampun ba, we will deliver and all that, and get the client to really feel about you and connect with you and award the thing for you and deliver. So the biggest that I have done was actually, I was supposed to sell 3D design software against my former employer. So the problem with my former employer already had 95% of the market, and I was supposed to go and grab another 15% increase. I said, boss, you already have 95% of the market. How do you increase the business? So that company let me go after 1 year. Another competitor saw the potential in there. They grabbed me, right? So what work I have done in the past 1 year plus, I continue in the new company, and we realized that there are other opportunities in the market. So we developed the opportunity. It took me a long time, to be honest, not something very fast. I took another year, we clean up again, we plug in the loophole, and that gave the company a revenue of 15 million that year from a regular revenue that they used to make the years before, 3 plus that million ringgit. So we increased it to 15 within a year. And from that, we increased again to 30 million for 5 years for software sales. For services, we got another 10 million, I think. And because the client was happy with the results that we gave them, then the client said, why not you do all? So we asked, what do you mean all? The client said, I have 300 platforms. I need to clean up the data, everything. I need to digitize everything. And then he asked, for the last job that you did, right, how much per platform? So I said, what, 1 million, 1.5 million like that. So I said, okay, you multiply by 300, let me know the budget. So I said, ooh, so that's about 500 million. I said, you serious want to spend that kind of money? I said, we put in an application to budget, see the boss approve or not. It was actually given an approval, verbal, before they go into the proper board meeting and all that. But unfortunately, in 2014, the oil price crashed from $150 down to, I think, about $14. So the project was that time put on hold and indefinitely until today lah. So those are the things that my team and I had done. We just look at the solution that we can do for the client, and then what we did was facilitate the solution for them. And the numbers, we ourselves didn't believe that we make these numbers. And the problem with that, then the boss started to put numbers on you. Last year you made 15. This year, next year, I think you can make 30. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing your stories. That is very impressive indeed. And having so many years in B2B sales, and you have a lot of reflections there. So like my first question for people who are not familiar with B2B sales, what is the hardest part when it comes to B2B sales?
Okay, what I realized when I started training is that a lot of sales engineers, right, or sales executive, when they tackle a client, which is a company, they would go to a person, one person. They build a relationship with that person, right? Become good lah. They can go coffee, can go karaoke with this particular person, and they think they're in already, right? But what they don't realize is to purchase an item, even just one item, there are so many people involved. And a few other persons might not even have heard of you or your company. And when you go to the procurement people will always look at the cheapest price for an item that meets their specification, which the specification is made by the engineers, right? So if you have not met these two people, the guy who made the specs and the guy who negotiate the price, and above them, there are the bosses who would approve whatever that they have done. So if you only look at the engineer, the other guys do not know you, one thing I can guarantee is that you will not get the order. I had 2 or 3 students who that happened while I was training them. And then when I show them a diagram on how things work, they were like, oh, like that. I said, you have to tackle the clients from the guy that you see all the way to the boss. So I asked one simple question: have your MD or managing director seen their managing director or not? So I said, I want your company to have that kind of relationship. GM sees GM, lead engineer sees lead engineer, because you have to match all those decision-making levels. So their company has to know your company, and you have to have that relationship. So that's what you can call a strategic selling lah. And if you read a book called Power-Based Selling, right, by Jim Holden. So Jim Holden is an Ivy League graduate. So he looked at how to sell intelligently. So of course, he will look at their requirements and looking at solutions to their requirements, but he understood that there are people at various levels that are influencing the decision, or the influencer of the decision maker. One decision maker could be the procurement manager or the CEO, but he is influenced by so many people. So you need to be with those people who are influencing to decide for you, because what you do is you meet their requirement and they like your face. If they don't like your face, I'm sorry, right? No matter how you make their life easier, if they don't like your face, sorry. So you have to do that. You have to make life easier for them, and you have also to be good with them. So those are the things that most people overlook. They think they just reply to an inquiry, submit a tender, they get it. Okay, I can guarantee you, if you participate in a tender, all right, and you only know about it the day that the tender comes out, I can guarantee you 110% you lose. Don't bother preparing for the tender, everything, if you only know about it the day that it comes out, right? Because it would have been for someone else already. So those are the things that B2B seller miss. Sometimes they think they just sell a laptop. Yes, true, it's a laptop, but you have to understand the laptop is used for what? What are the specifications, the graphics specifications? Are they going to be used on working on Canva a lot, like PowerPoint a lot, or just writing letters? You have to know all that. And then you have to talk to people who use it. Right? So you have to cover everyone, basically.
That is a very good advice. Being in B2B sales, I had a stint in B2B sales, and currently in my business, I also do a lot of company B2B sales. And when you said that, I was like, oh my God, that is a revelation. There is so many people involved, from, like you said, procurement, finance, the operations, the people themselves, and it depends on what department you are selling to. So it's not just one itself, and up top as well, the decision makers, the people who sign off on a deal. So many layers there, and that is awesome advice. So like one thing that really occurred to me when you shared with me your story, you said you and your client submitted the budget, and let's see if it's approved or not. And it was, as you said, $500 million, right? $500 million. So what I can see from that, I've not done anything close to that before, right? So that is actually very impressive, because I cannot imagine doing that. So I imagine there's a lot of trust there. You are not just like one of the suppliers. Like you said, if you tender on the same day, that means you're just a formality. They want to fulfill the number of proposals, so they call you, right? But if you have built trust, that means you will be the person who initiate the tender together with the client, right? So like, what are your tips? So when I heard your story, I said, wow, this guy really has the trust of the client. So how do you actually build trust with your clients?
Okay, because what most salespeople, especially those B2B, think what that they do is just to carry a product and go sell to a client, right? I was in these shoes before. Okay, for example, if you are selling welding equipment, welding consumables, so a lot of them thinking that I'm just taking this welding rod, I go see client A, I'm selling you welding rod, like it or not, this is the welding rod. Then I talk to you about what are the features of this welding rod, blah blah blah, benefit, blah, blah, blah. But at that point, do I know what is his problem or not? And if the client is not new in the business, for sure he had been using welding rods, right? And the welding rods that he had been using, are they perfect? I can guarantee it is not, right? They would have some problems. Either it is easily soaking water, it expires very fast, things like that, blah, 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 right? So we have to know what are his challenges with the current equipment that he's using, okay, especially consumables. What we want to know then, if we in Malaysia, typically we are the representative, we have principals in the US, Europe, or whatnot. Then what we want to do, once we understand the problem, we want to talk to our principals. Can we overcome it? Can we help him overcome? He has already told me his problems. Can we help him solve this problem or not? Right? And unfortunately, many companies in the world, not just in Malaysia, couldn't care about that. Okay. In fact, the software company I was with just wanted me to sell the software, finish. But because the software has a 75% margin, very good. Right? So you sell 1 million ringgit of software, you get 750,000 profit. Damn good, right? But is it customizable to what the client's problem is? Right? You sell somebody a car, for example, you need to help him to put the fuel, to put the tire, and so on. Then only the car can jalan. If you just sell him the car and he doesn't know how to use the car, he doesn't even know how to pump in the fuel, the car, no matter it's a BMW or Mercedes or Axia, it's going to stay in his garage. So in a lot of software that I've sold, I had to understand, okay, does he drive the car, relax, right, just to get from point A to point B, or he's the kind of person who after red light, green light, boom, where he wants to go, right? So that kind of guy will not want the green or yellow fuel, right? RON 95, 97. They want the red one, right? So I have to understand that they want the red fuel, and they do not want an extra. Like people like that, I can sell him the 3 Series, M3, whatnot. Okay, so I match that requirement, and if the BMW, if you notice, starting to respond, okay, I sell you the standard BMW. We have every day we have 3 Series, but if your client wants it like this, fine. We can put a wing at the back. We can put this in the front, this at the side, and so on. Right? So the client want this and that. So we must be able to look at, can we tweak it to what he wants? Can we provide a solution to exactly what he wants? If not, can we work with somebody else to also help? Let's say BMW doesn't make super sports rims. I get somebody to supply the sports rim. So how I was able to work out that 500 million budget is because the software company actually only sells software. The company doesn't do any service so much. So what I had to do, I had to look for collaborators within the industry that could provide the service that came under our umbrella. Then we proposed to the client. So that client said, "Oh man, you are the answer." Because we help them solve their problems. It's not that most companies, okay, I sell you the software, you go install, I install the software for you, I teach the software how to use it, how to set it up. Next, you punya pasal lah. Like how you want to configure it. So I buy R1 million software. If I don't teach you all that, right? How am I going to use the software? So those are the kind of mindsets that B2B salesperson need to get into.
Yes. Yeah. So that is amazing. So like you said, you don't just sell a car, right? So if the person that say likes to listen to music, you find the best audio person for him. That the person likes like you said, like to race. You need to find the right tire shop for the person.
Yep.
And the right feel and everything. So it's not just, oh, this is my product I want to sell, but solving the problem for them, identifying what challenges they are having, and not only if most of the time in B2B sales, they software is just like, let's say you used to sell software is one part of it, and you also need to find solutions for their hardware, because without the hardware they cannot use the software, and there's so many things, and that's why you said you're the connector, because you will bring in other people, even sometimes not directly to your benefit, but you help the clients out as well. So my next question, reflecting on that, because a lot of things when you say, I say, oh my God, I should have done all these things as well. And one of the things that you said that really occurred to me was that you said you also need to have in mind the other stakeholders, the other departments. Let's say you are selling software, you need to know the procurement, the finance. So my question to you, so this is a selfish question. I'm thinking what to do for my own company. So how do you also connect with the other departments? Because it's not related to you. Let's say you're selling software. How you go and talk to the procurement, or you go and talk to the finance? What do you do as for yourself?
Okay, normally, right, there are industry events. And the people that you've met, also normally your client, would also be friend buddy with people within his company, right? So what I try to do, number one, I try to get the person I'm seeing face to face to introduce me to these other people, to the procurement people, to the finance people, and so on. Right? If normally what I experience is just, if they know the other person, they won't mind introducing. They will say, hi, this is our procurement manager, this is Faizal, he comes to see me, blah, blah, blah. So I say, okay, we exchange card. And normally in the first meeting, when you go to the guy's room, you see what's in this room, you try to pick things that you can talk with him about. Okay. You might not have time then to ask him this and that, but when you get your card and his card exchange, from there, the next time you call him to try to get an appointment, you might be able to do some small talk. To be honest, I hate small talks, right? But in cases like this, I have to learn to like and love small talk. So you want to pick up things that you can talk to him about, okay? But better still if you have industry events that you meet there. But the trick is that when he introduced this guy to you already, you remember his face. So, okay, I have it a bit easier, to be honest, because I'm in the oil and gas. So we have a lot of industry events. So when we got to know each other, and for oil and gas also, we tend to lepak at the similar places in KLCC, either Asiana Cafe, or what used to be, what is it called, Chino's Cafe, and so on. So as long as I know his face, the next time I pass these places and I see this face is around, go say hi. Right? Even though I don't stop to have drink, whatever, I just go say hi. And then most people would be, do I do this? Do I do this? Right? So I kind of have a thick face to do that. Go say hi, and then the guy will look at me. Where did we meet? I said that day I went to see this guy. He come introduce me to you. And being Malaysian or being Asian normally, they come have a seat. So you have to really have a thick face for that, right? And if you have time, why not, right? If you don't have, never mind. I thought I saw you, I recognize you, I want to say hi. Fine. So you have clicked at some levels there, you have done a connection, right? So if after that, if you call him on the numbers that you have, I say, hey, I came to see you that day, blah, blah, and bump into you at this place. I thought, I want to come to see you in the office. If you're okay, I want to ask you a few questions. Right? So if they allow you to come to see them in the office, a few questions, that is when you start to look at building your rapport. And once you meet another guy, one guy, he will always be able to introduce you to another guy, to another guy, to another guy, and so on. Right? I've met with one guy from Singapore. He was hired by one company also in oil and gas to do inspection services. He only had one name. In the whole of Petronas, he only had one name because they attended a master's class together, I think. So he came to KLCC, sat down at the Starbucks down there, called this person. This person was not even doing engineering. This person was in the accounts. But of course, this person knew people within Petronas, right? So having a chat, having coffee with this person. In fact, it's a she. Then he asked her a few questions. This person, this lady mentioned a few names, and then he asked her, can you invite one or two of them to come down and have a chat with me or not? So again, it's about thick face. You are willing to do all this, right? And get out of your comfort zone. And he left to Singapore 4 days later with a Starbucks bill total about 2,000 ringgit. Okay. But he already met and have an organization chart of people that he needed to know. So that's what he did. Okay. So that's how you build the procurement contact, the finance contact, the engineering contact. That's how he did it. So I learned a lot from that guy. Initially, I thought, yeah, you can tell story, blah, blah, blah. So I learned, I tried it, I practiced a bit, but not so much to that my Starbucks bill came to 2,000 ringgit. No. What I did was I went to Indonesia. I was asked to open the Indonesian market for the software that I was selling at the time, because every time we did a proposal, it was rejected. All right. So I had to find a way. What I did was, this is when people were using LinkedIn differently. So I look at LinkedIn. I have a paid LinkedIn. So at the time, the authority for oil and gas in Indonesia was called BP Migas. I have a paid LinkedIn, and I listed down every single person who was in BP Migas. And who did I call? I called the secretaries. I went to their building in Jakarta, sat down at their reception, called every one of them until a few came down and talked to me about how the organization worked. And that same day, I happened to manage to did a short presentation to the department I was looking for. And after that, all my proposals were approved. So yeah, you do have to be a bit creative in trying to meet the people and so on, right? In fact, I was so successful in that, I had asked my country agent, Indonesian agent, to set me an appointment with someone. He was not able to do that for me. And I did these particular appointments myself. I mean, it's just, we have a target. We need something to be achieved. If we don't achieve that target, then our salary, our commission, kaput lah. So you have to find a way to get it.
That is so much gold there. Being in B2B sales myself, as you said, be creative. Now we have LinkedIn. At least you'll know the name of the person.
Yes.
And then you find ways to meet them, and it's not direct. Sometimes I hear you go different departments, you have coffee with them, and very good. I think the best tip I got there is industry events. There they have like Hari Raya makan or whatever, must go, and I from what I learned the most from this is just not one department. Find out and meet the rest of the other stakeholders as well. And very, very good tips there that I learned on building trust. And I think one of the things in B2B sales that is very difficult is the getting through the gatekeeper, right? So like you said, call the secretaries, find out. And I think one key thing that you said just now that is very important is the thick face. And listening to your interview with Azalin, you said you went to somebody's room, there was nothing there, and then there was a photo of the F1, something like that. And then you start to talk. I think one very key thing that I see that is you need to have an interest in everything. So for example, in my case, if someone say, oh, I'm from Kampa, and then I say, oh, in Kampa there's this thing, very nice. That easier to start conversations, whether it's F1 or whatever. You need to have that interest and to start conversations with someone.
I need to tweak that a bit for you.
Okay.
Interest is not so much as I'm interested, right? I saw the F1 thingy. So what I did was I asked him, what was it about the F1 thing that you like? It's not so much I want to talk to him about what I like about F1. Yes, I'm a buff lah, F1 things at the time. But what I did was I asked him to tell me what did he like about the F1 thingy and which team he supports, which driver he likes. Of course, I must have a bit of a
background,
basic knowledge. So he went to compare Benetton to Renault, Williams, Okay, I listened. Same thing when you say about Kampa just now, right? So what you can ask is, if you find out somebody from Kampa, right? I was just with a professor, a lecturer from Nigeria just now, Dr. Adam Sadiza. So what we asked him is, look, I'm sorry, I said I always have the bad impression about Nigeria, blah, blah, blah. So can you share me your perspective? What's great about Nigeria? Of course, when you ask somebody to talk about their home country, that's it. I mean, even us, like from Taipei, when you just drive by Kampa, what lah there Kampa, nothing much, right?
You said it, I didn't say it.
But when that's our impression, right? But when you stay there for a while, you ask somebody from Kampa, I discovered, oh man, there's a good chee chong fan, there's a good beef noodle, Then they said, holy cow, how come for 20 years I miss all these things in Kampa, right? Even Ipoh, whatnot. You'll be surprised about how many people from Taipei do not realize what's great in Taipei. Right? So sometimes when you ask him as a person this kind of question, they start to, So that's the point of conversation. Because a lot of people think when you do B2B sale, you have to be able to talk technically, talk about their real problem, But sometimes you find that out of an hour, maybe you talk about the problem only 5 minutes. 55 minutes, you talk about something else completely different. I had a meeting. My boss at that time, I don't know, either he was doing it purposefully or he was just late for his flight coming to Kuantan, right? So I was left 2.5 hours with the boss of the Petronas Penapisan plant. I was not an inspection engineer, so I really, holy cow, what do I talk to him about? But when I was coming up his office, I saw that he had a modified BMW 3 Series. So I just asked him about the car. That took me 2.5 hours before my boss arrived. He even called another manager who had a Toyota Supra Turbo. So then the three of us ended up talking about cars, nothing about work until my boss came. So for you to be able to pick up that small thing, 1, 2 thing, get them to talk.
Awesome, awesome. That is great. That is gold nugget there, because you don't have to be an F1 expert like our friend Rizal is. Like, he's know everything. He has the paid F1 app, everything. You just need to ask the right questions.
True.
You need to have that curiosity and ask the right questions. So you don't even need, for example, if I get to know someone who is in fishing, I don't need to know about fishing. I can ask him like, why you choose this rod, what type of fish I do fish for, things like that. And yeah, great advice there, because a lot of people find difficulty having conversations, start with someone for 2.5 hours. So that is a great goal there. So like, last question before we go. So we have spent a lot of time here today, but last question before I go, I think it's very important. A lot of salespeople, so like this podcast will go out to people on LinkedIn, and a lot of my audience are in sales or in business. So for salespeople, like you said, attend industry events, right? And you also say attend networking events as well. So what is your tip for someone attending a networking event? Because what happens is, to give you context, I find it frustrating attending networking events. You introduce yourself, exchange name card, and then you don't know what happened after that, right? So maybe connect on LinkedIn. Now you have LinkedIn, you connect on LinkedIn. That's another level. But what is your advice when you actually attend networking events?
Okay, to be honest with you, I also hated networking events, right? The reason why I hated networking events, every company that I worked for actually had specific targets that I want to reach out for, right? But when you go to industry events, you find 10,000 Tom, Dick, and Harry. You don't even know which one from the companies that you want to target for, right? Just like today, I went for Hari Raya Open House. Okay, out of this is actually not even an end client. I just needed 2 or 3 clients from their industry, right? So what I did was just take the food, sit down with them, and then of course open the small talk, But from you can ask, for example, like, oh, okay, so the typical one, like give the name card, and you look at their name card, okay. And then what I would do normally, and look at front and back of their name card, and pick up a point from there that I can ask them to elaborate. For example, some people, they list 5 services that they do. Okay. If typical web developer, for example, website development, So what you can do is like, okay, hey, you can create my website for me, right? Yeah. Typical, everyone would be proud of that, right? So tell me, what would be different between the website that you create based on typical websites that are created by other people? And then blah, 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 blah. So that saves you from talking already. Most people will be proud of their creation. They tell you this is what I do and so on. So what you want to do next is you really listen. Okay, this is where a lot of people also fumble. We listen normally to reply. Okay, what we want to do now, we listen to really understand where he is coming from, what does he do, and try to pick up 1 or 2 points that you would be really interested to know about that company, about him. Okay, and quite a lot of time also, the person business has nothing to do with you, right? But he explains his business to you here and there, so you maybe you get to also explain your business to him, but that seldom happens. But you doing that would normally give an impression of you are a nice conversationalist to him. If you ask him, what did Bob say? Don't know. I don't think Bob said anything. But okay lah, Bob is okay guy lah. And then he might have looked at your card and have an idea of what you do. What would happen normally, typically, is that when somebody mentions something, a service that you probably provide, hey, that day, this Bob, he was speaking to me. He just mentioned something. Let me see if I have his name card or not. So again, now he becomes the connector. His business had nothing to do with you. and you also had nothing to do with his business. But because you allow him to blah, 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 and he remembers you for that, right? So sometimes you wonder, like networking event like BNI, you only had 30 seconds to talk. What can you really say in 30 seconds? So what you do, breakfast after that, you introduce people to people and so on. So this is when you allow people to talk and you have that impression about you, which people remember and pass you on to another person. So that's what you want to achieve in a networking event.
Thank you so much. That is a game changer, because I just recently last week attended a networking event and I didn't do that. So, but now I know what to do. Now I know what to do. It's actually related to the previous answer you gave as well. It's asking the right questions, having that curiosity, and make them talk about themselves. Wow, that is so good.
So sometimes worst come to worst, right? If I don't know what to talk to you, for example, I just ask you, hey Bob, you tell me how you maintain your beard. I mean, we have to be able to come up with questions like that, right? That's a bit of creativity involved, a bit of being spontaneous involved. Because sometimes you really stumble. What do I talk about with this guy, So you have to look at the person and what can I talk about with this person?
Awesome. That will help me while running this podcast also. That will help me as well to come up with questions. So thank you so much for your time, Faizal. So we already over time, but anyway, last question before we go, and I don't ask my guests this question one, but you mentioned a lot of books during our conversation. You mentioned the Bob Burg book, and just now you mentioned the sales book as well. Mm-hmm. So before we go, can you give us a few sales books that we really should, that are your favorite sales books?
Yeah, I always say Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. To be honest, anything you want to know about sales is already in that book. How to Win Friends and Influence People. This is that you need to read it once or twice, really understand the content of the book, right? And apply it. The next book is 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Stephen Covey. My favorite is habit number 5, seek to understand. So you go see a client, you seek to understand his problem, you seek to understand not just his problem, you seek to understand how is his company operating. Where do they want to go? What do they want to serve the public about? So you understand their business as a whole. Then you can look at many solutions at potential sales. The third one is, of course, Bob Burg's The Go-Giver. It's a series actually of 4 books. Okay. First, The Go-Giver itself, a red color book, and then green color, The Go-Giver Sell More, and then Go-Giver Influencer, Go-Giver Leader. They're all like storybooks. It's a parable, okay, but you can. It's an easy read. You're reading like almost like a storybook, right? But you apply the principles. You don't really have to sell. And one of my favorite thing in that book is that you don't need to close. People are talking about trial, close the sale, close it. But if you understand that book, you don't really close the business. The clients will close the business for you. Like the instance that I had, the client said, go take 50 million and finish it. I didn't even know try close. I didn't ask, okay. I just asked, okay, look, what are your challenges? When do you need this solved by? And let me try to do it first. And I just said, okay, go take 50 million and go solve my problem. Okay. So you want to be able, sometimes you see people coming into workshops, right? They have a problem. Sometimes they say, and they have money to spend. You just go fix my tire, I pay you this much. You don't even, you need to use this tire, that tire better. No. So once you seek to understand, then you let the client close for you. So these are the 3, my absolute favorite books.
Thank you, Faizal. I wish we had more time, but it was so much gold that you shared today. What I really love about the conversation with you, you are an actual practitioner. There's no bullshit. A lot of people like to talk about, theories, like to talk about that concept, this concept, but what I learned from you is practical things that you share from your actual experience. So thank you so much for being on the podcast. And for all the listeners, please connect with Faizal, mainly on LinkedIn, right, Faizal?
Yep.
So Faizal,
I'm on LinkedIn, on Facebook.
On Facebook and LinkedIn, please connect with Faizal. So I'll connect with you on Facebook as well. Faizal Sohaimi, the connector on LinkedIn and Facebook. Thank you so much, Faizal, for being on the show.
You're welcome, Bob.